I never imagined it would happen to me. 15 years. 15 years I had spent with Sergey, building a life, creating memories, and believing we were happy. We had a house, 2 beautiful children, and a routine that I thought was solid. But looking back now, I see the cracks that had begun to form long before I acknowledged them. The first signs of something being wrong were subtle. Sergey, who used to be so attentive, started coming home late more often. At first, I thought it was just the stress of work. He's always been dedicated to his job, sometimes too much. But then, the little things started adding up. He became distant, emotionally unavailable. I would try to talk to him, but he would brush me off, saying it was just work. His phone was always within arm's reach, and when he did let it down, he would panic if I even glanced at it. But I trusted him, or so I thought. I remember the night everything changed. It was a Friday, and I had been waiting for him to come home. He'd said he had a meeting that would run late. I wasn't expecting him until around midnight, but it was already 2 a.m., and I hadn't heard from him. Something in my gut told me to check. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was just the desperation I had been feeling for weeks. I opened his laptop and found that it was unlocked, as usual. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but when I opened his email, my heart sank. The inbox was empty, but as I scrolled down to the trash folder, I saw something that made my stomach turn. There were reservations for fancy restaurants, tickets for events, and flower orders. I immediately recognized the name of the restaurant. It wasn't one I had ever been to. In fact, I had never even heard of it. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I knew then that I had to know the truth. The next day, I decided to follow him. I waited until he said he was going to work. I pretended to go to the store, but I followed him. He didn't even notice. The first place he stopped was a cafe, but it wasn't the usual one he went to. He sat with a woman, a young woman. She had long blonde hair, and I could see them laughing and holding hands from where I was sitting, hidden behind the corner. I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing. My whole body felt numb. I had to leave. I couldn't sit there any longer. My hands were shaking as I drove home, but all I could think about was him. Was this why he had been so distant? Was I just not enough anymore? The next few days felt like a blur. I couldn't focus on anything. I tried to keep things normal for the kids, but I felt like I was living in a fog. That night, I confronted him. I asked him if there was something he wasn't telling me. He denied it at first. But when I showed him the receipts from the restaurants, the photos of him with her, he couldn't lie anymore. He apologized, but it didn't matter. Nothing could make up for what he had done. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just empty. The man I thought I knew was gone. He was no longer the person I had built my life with. He was someone else, someone I didn't recognize. "I'm leaving," he said. "I don't love you anymore." Those words cut deeper than any betrayal could, but they also gave me clarity. It wasn't just him who had lost something. I had too. I had lost myself in the past few years, in the endless attempts to make things work, to hold on to a relationship that was already broken. But I wasn't going to lose myself completely. A week later, Sergey packed his things. He left. I didn't cry. I didn't beg him to stay. I just watched him walk out the door, feeling nothing. I was numb. At first, the silence in the house was unbearable. The house felt too big, too empty. I'd spend nights alone, staring at the ceiling, wondering what went wrong. But over time, something shifted. I started to find peace in the silence. I began to rediscover who I was without him. I took up yoga again, started going for walks in the park, and even joined a book club. I began to feel like myself again, stronger, more independent. I even started dating again, though it was terrifying at first. But the more I allowed myself to heal, the more I realized that the betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was just a chapter, and I wasn't going to let it define me. Months later, Sergey came back. He begged me to take him back. He said he made a mistake, but I wasn't the same person I had been when he left. I knew my worth. I wasn't going to settle for someone who didn't choose me the first time. I closed the door on him, and I never looked back. I am stronger now. The betrayal, while painful, taught me something important. That I deserve more than just being someone's second choice. I deserve a love that's whole, honest, and real. And I'll wait for that love, because I'm worth it.